Hello folks, and thank you very much for watching my very first YouTube video. The video is about discharging and measuring the remaining capacities of older batteries. I'm interested in this because there is not that much information on the internet about remaining capacities of older batteries, and also manufacturers are not really providing this kind of information. I have an EV conversion in mind, and behind you see a boat engine. So we have a number of batteries that are going to be installed in a boat, and I would like to see how those older batteries perform. And of course it's a question of cost and how much lifetime you can expect of those batteries. So I have three types of batteries here. This is a 100 amp hour lead gel battery. It was used in a little garden house for cooking and supplying fridge and light and so on. Then we have a lead acid battery, a typical one that is used in a car. It is 2 years old and it's rated 63 amp hours. And the smallest one here is a lithium iron polymer battery. It's rated 96 watt hours, equals roughly about 7 amp hours, and it's 5 years old. To discharge those batteries, I'm using a DC load that is nothing else than an artificial consumer, like a lamp or so. And the advantage of this DC load is that you can set it to a constant current as a discharge. So for instance, this battery here has 100 amp hours. That means you would be able to drain 10 amps for 10 hours, equals 100 amp hours. And for the test here, we're going to do is we will drain 5 amp hours. So this battery would actually last 20 hours until it's empty. I don't think that there is that much in there. It's 10 years old, so it's probably end of their life. And the second thing is, this unit allows to set a lower threshold. So we do not drain the battery to a degree where it's getting damaged. And this lowest threshold is 10.7 volts. I use 10.7 volts for all the types of batteries. So the lead gel, the lead acid, and also the lithium polymer is being drained to 10.7 volts, constant current of 5 amp hours. So this DC load is currently being controlled by a computer application. It would also run totally autonomous, but the computer application has a nice GUI, and I would like to show you how this looks like, and then we start the test. So here we are again on the application, on the remote application of this DC load. You see you need to connect with a serial port, but it has other options like Ethernet or so. And you see the display that is on the front panel of the DC load. Then you have a number of presets that you can store, defined profiles and constant current, constant voltage, etc. You even have a programmable test list that you can stepwise run through, and with a number of cycles and things like that. But the most important part actually is on this right lower side here for the battery test. So we have set it, as I said, to 5 amps discharge current. Termination voltage or lowest threshold of the battery is 10.7, and we will not take out more than 100 amp hours, or it will not run more than 1 day. That's 86,400 seconds. So if any of those three conditions are met, the test is terminated, and we will see the result here. How many seconds it has been running, how much the battery capacity is, and in the background I will keep a log. So we track the data that we measure here, and it goes into a file, and we write every 1 or 2 seconds into a file to the actual result. So I will start the test, and after a moment you probably will hear the battery, the fan coming on of the DC load, because you need to cool that. So we started, and you see also on the graphs, they are not that helpful I think, but yeah, they show the current voltage 12.8, and you already see how it drops, and we are drawing 5 amps, and that turns out to about 63.5 or 6 watts. So the test will run according to these parameters. The major problem seems to be that on all the batteries you do not really get the charge into the battery, and therefore if you cannot really charge them, you also can of course not expect to get any capacity out of it. And that seems to be a bit of problem with the older lead acid batteries, but also these lead shale batteries. I will show you the results that I have after quite a number of days charging and discharging, and with several modes. For most of the time I use this sheet or charger. It's a 8 amps or 2 amps charger, depending on the capacity you can set it. It's suitable for lead acid, but it has also a specific mode for AGM batteries, and the third mode is actually used for the lithium iron phosphate batteries, also 2 amps or 8 amps. And it has a special mode if you have a reconditioning mode. If you have the battery left for a few months, then it might be necessary to refresh or recondition the battery a bit. I did use this mode also to try out, and if you use this mode you need to disconnect the battery in the car or remove the battery from the car, because the high voltage pulses they have here may damage the car electrics. I think they go up to 16 or 17 volts with high pulses to refresh or recondition those batteries. I did those batteries try to recondition, even the AGM, with limited success, as you can see later on. By the way, if you remove the battery from the car, and I'm sure most of you will know that, you always disconnect the minus pole first, and then the plus pole. And when we install the battery again, you first connect the plus pole and then the minus pole, and this is for safety reason. A friend of mine had really bad experience with these batteries. He was using a spanner like this and tried to remove or disconnect the plus pole first, and what happens is the current went actually from the spanner through his wedding ring, and from the wedding ring, while he was trying to remove the connection of the battery, he touched the chassis of the car, and the wedding ring was really glowing, and his finger was really severely burned. So be careful. Even though this battery is now being discharged, it still can provide quite a number of amps. I mean, I'm using 25 amps load now, and it still has 9 or 9.9 volts and providing 250 watts of power. So be careful, even if it's an old battery. So here you see the results. I have 4 lead shale batteries, numbered 1 to 4, and these are the charging and discharging cycles for every one of those. So you see the first one has about 3.93 amp hours left in the battery. The second is worse, 1.03, and the third even worse, 0.77, and the fourth has 4.16 amp hours left after 11 years of charging and discharging. The best of all is my little lithium iron phosphate battery that was 5 years old, and I made 3 charge-discharge cycles, and it ended up with 5.6 amp hours out of those 7 amp hours after 5 years of use. Then the one that you have seen is a lead acid, the 65 amp hours, that is only 2 years old, but already now it has only about 32 amp hours left. Maybe I could squeeze a bit more out if I do a reconditioning, and maybe it would increase something to like 40 or so, I don't know. Then the other one was a 45 amp hour lead acid battery that was 5 or maybe more years old, but I suppose that it has been really abused in the sense that discharged to a lower level than 10.7 volts. So these are the charge-discharge cycles, and I mean this battery is also barely usable with 2.74 amps left. You could still start a car probably, but not use lights or anything for a longer period of time without running the engine. So these are the results. For me it's clear that I'm going to use the lithium iron phosphate batteries for my EV conversion, because they have, compared to the lead acid or lead gel or AGM batteries, they have much longer lifetime and also charge discharge cycles, and they are worth the price actually by far. Thank you for watching.